Hello everyone, it's Carrie here from the Female Entrepreneur Association and welcome to another weekly dose of inspiration to build a successful business. So today we are going to be getting a little bit more up close and personal, and we're talking about something that I think only as women can really understand, and that is how our bodies can have such a huge impact on our business and I suppose on our lives in general. So for example, sometimes, I actually noticed in the past that sometimes I feel like I'm on a constant roller coaster. Some days I'm like thinking that everything's amazing, my business is incredible, and I'm in control of everything. And then a few days later, I'll feel down in the dumps, overly emotional, irrational, stressed out, and not able to handle things, I suppose, in the same way. And I remember talking to my friends about this on numerous occasions and them saying things like, yes, I feel exactly the same way. And we all realized it was really because of like what was going on and depending on what the time of the month was. I'm sure all of you can relate to this and you know what I'm talking about. So today we are joined by the amazing Nicole Jardmin, who is a women's health coach and also the creator of Fix Your Period. And she's going to be sharing 3 feminine strategies that we can use to help make sure that we can control this and control the stress that is caused by our bodies. So Nicole, thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited to talk about this.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to talk about this too. I feel like we all need to know this information.
We do need to know it because I was so excited because I literally have these conversations with my friends. We'll sit there and we'll chat and I'll be like, one day I just feel like a psycho. I just feel like a total out of control psycho. I'm overly emotional. And then a few days later, I'll be completely fine. And it's like this constant roller coaster ride. And I feel like our hormones just have such a huge impact on us. And I've never really known how to deal with it. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say, because I'm sure everyone else, or all the women out there, can relate to this.
Yes, there is no doubt. And as I was saying to you before, I just feel like before understanding and knowing this information, it's so hard to really figure out how to work with your body rather than work against it. And so I think women need to understand first and foremost that our cycles or our bodies work in a cyclical way. So we've got this whole cyclical nature happening. And for us, it's a monthly thing, whereas for guys, it is a daily thing. So men, they peak in the morning and then they slowly go down in the daytime and then crash. But for women, it is a sort of up and down thing throughout the month. And it starts usually with our menstrual or with our period when we get it, that is, what happens is our bodies are sort of at that very bottom of that peak. And that is the time for us to be resting and taking a breather. And I think that we, as women, because we want to just power through and do our thing, we don't recognize that a lot of the time. And we just figure, well, it's just any other day and we have to keep going and just do what we need to do. But what I've found is that when you honor that time, that restful time in your cycle, you're able to then get a lot more out of the busier times in your cycle. So as I said, oh, sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I'm just I'm so happy to be having this conversation, to be knowing this stuff. I seriously didn't know this before. I just wondered why on earth some days I felt off and other days I was like, woo, on top of everything. So
Isn't that crazy?
I'm so in awe of what you're saying right now.
Okay, awesome. Good. I'll keep going. Anyway, what I was saying is that first 2 to 3 days of your cycle and even a couple days before, you really want to think about winding down and taking time to rest and taking, all these crazy parties and busy things off of your calendar if you can do that. Because I find that, we're not in the mood to really do a lot of these things, but we kind of just do them anyways because we think we have to. And so when you get your period, take a day off if you can take a day off, especially for women who own their businesses, if it's possible. I mean, that's why we own businesses, right? To be able to take the time off that we need. And so if it's possible, I recommend doing that and just taking a day where it's, a day for you, a rest day, a pamper day, whatever you want to call it. And once your period is over, your hormones are at their lowest. So this is the point where, nothing is really going on internally. All the sex hormones are pretty much not doing anything. And this is what goes on for a couple of days after your period ends. And then they start to build up again. So estrogen is what is dominant in that first half of your cycle leading up to ovulation. And then progesterone takes over after ovulation. And estrogen is the happy, juicy, sexy, fun hormone. And then progesterone is the take it easy, easy, calm down hormone. So that first half of your cycle leading into ovulation is actually a busy time. So I call it like spring and summer, because those are the times that we should be really doing things. So we should be social, we should be out and about. Doing for work stuff, we should be doing meetings. We should be meeting with colleagues and potential business partners, things like that. Speaking events, networking events, all of these things where we can use our extra social superpowers. This is the best time for women to just be out there. And then what happens after ovulation is progesterone takes over. And as I said, progesterone is like the natural Valium hormone. So what happens is we tend to want to calm down and wind down and take time for ourselves leading into that second half of our cycle. And for many of us, we tend not to do that, especially women business owners, because, we've got a lot of things to do. And usually we're one women shows. So it's one of those things where we just figure, okay, we'll just keep on powering through. Unfortunately, that's a very male way of doing things, or a masculine way of doing things. And the more feminine way of doing things is to really maximize your time in that first half and then just take care of the more, analytical things for the second half of your cycle. So you're managing your finances and you're just doing more of the internal things for your business rather than the external things. So that's really like how you can do stuff for your business and your life around your menstrual cycle.
I absolutely love this. And I also love, so before we started this recording, we were having a little conversation. You said that you always launch anything if you're launching, what part of, did you say you launch it at like the beginning of the
first? Yes. So the first half. So really like after your period, you start to build up energy and things start to get going. And that's when I would launch. So anytime between days like 7 and 16 of my cycle.
Oh my gosh, this is genius. I absolutely love it. Like, I feel like I've been opened up to a whole way of doing things that I wasn't doing before. I was just accepting before that it was just the way it was, and there was, just had to like you said, like so many women just get on with it. And it's really interesting because I do think there are different activities that we can do that can play to those strengths, like exactly how you've described. But are there anything that we can do to kind of help us along the way to help make it easier, so that perhaps isn't so dramatically up and down, or so that our hormones don't have such a huge impact on us?
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. I love that you just asked that. Okay. So the first thing women also need to realize is that our bodies are so sensitive to cortisol, which is that stress hormone, much more sensitive than men's bodies. And that's just because of our unique hormonal makeup. And with progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, all of them interplay with cortisol. So when we're stressed out, we're continually producing cortisol so that we can just get through our event, whatever it is that we're doing, and then it should subside. Except it doesn't really subside for most of us because we're just going. And the problem with cortisol is that it dampens the production of progesterone, which is that Valium hormone that keeps you calm. And so what women need to do is, first of all, think about their stress response and how they are responding to whatever they've got going on in their lives. And just remember that cortisol can affect their menstrual cycle, their fertility, all of these things, because it has such an effect on their sex hormones. So that's one thing for women to keep in mind, I think, because we don't realize there's such a connection, but there really is an incredible physiological connection. The second thing is that when we're eating lots of sugar, refined carbs, things like that, it actually raises cortisol production because insulin and cortisol play together. So they raise each other. Yeah. And so what happens is then that cortisol messes with our periods, all these other things. So what I tell women to do is to really think about balancing their blood sugar. And when I say that, what I mean is if you eat a meal, you want to be full or at least satisfied for about 4 to 6 hours after you've eaten. If you don't balance your blood sugar, you're basically sending your insulin up and down. It's kind of like the same spike I was talking about before. And you're also sending your cortisol up and down too. And that, of course, causes major hormonal problems. And when cortisol is high, we are in that tired but wired kind of anxiety-ridden phase, and it's not fun at all. I mean, I know lots of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
So that's why I recommend the first thing to do would be to keep your blood sugar as stable as possible. And so you want to do that with protein, complex carbohydrates, and healthy fat, and lots of fiber in each meal. And that should keep you basically feeling sane. And like you were saying earlier, you know, there's a roller coaster. The blood sugar roller coaster is almost exactly the same as the PMS roller coaster.
How interesting. This blows my mind because it does have such a huge impact on like the decisions we're making and the progress that we're making, because how we feel and is how we react to things. Like, it makes such a difference in business. So I love these tips, and that we can actually be feminine and like embrace our femininity, and then make sure that we are playing with it in the right way, and like we're looking after ourselves in the right way so that we can be the most effective that we can be. So I absolutely love it. I'm sure on your website you must have other articles you've written about like foods to eat and all that stuff. So I will get a load of links from you afterwards and leave them so that people can go and check them out to see like what kind of foods specifically they can eat and all sorts of other things, because I'm sure you have so many more tips on this topic. I'm sure we've just touched the tip of the iceberg with it. But it's so fascinating. I absolutely love it, and I think it's just a really great conversation for us to be having, because I think there's especially in business, a lot of us are on our own, and so when you feel isolated and you feel like you're constantly on this roller coaster, it can be really off-putting and you feel like you just want to give up. So I think having this conversation and just letting people know that it's actually normal and it's part of us, and that we just have to embrace it and then work with it, it's so important. So thank you so much for coming and sharing all of that stuff. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone else will too, so thank you.
Oh, thank you, Carrie.
I would absolutely love to know what you think too. Is this something that you can relate to? Do you know what I mean when I say that one day you can be having an amazing time and the next day you're feeling down in the dumps? Have you ever thought this? Leave a comment and let us know. I think this is a really great topic for us to all be open and honest about, so that we can all feel like we are normal. And if you've loved this week's video and you aren't subscribed, then make sure you subscribe. You can do so over on our YouTube channel, or you can subscribe via email. At the bottom of the post on the website there is a little image. You just have to click on it and then you can just sign up, and we'll send you a weekly email every Tuesday with the latest video in it, so make sure you do that. But I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you found it inspiring and helpful. Hopefully it's going to help us all to be less stressed, like to be able to actually handle our hormones better. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you next week for another dose of inspiration.